Thank you, merci. I have an opening, and then I'll look forward to your questions. Before I begin, I want to take a moment to reflect on what's going on in Lebanon. What we saw with the bombing was one of the worst casualties that Lebanon has experienced since 2006. And it's become very clear that we are witnessing violations of international law being committed by Netanyahu and his government, as well as by Hezbollah. And I'm really worried about the escalating conflict, the potential for an escalating conflict in the region that could mean the loss of countless lives. And so that's why I believe Canada needs to do everything it can to stop the escalation of violence and to evacuate all Canadians in the region. Today we are laying out our different visions for Canada. The Conservatives' vision for Canada is one where they cut and gut healthcare. They are very clear what they want to do. They want to cut pharmacare. They want to cut dental care. They want to cut healthcare and privatize it so their corporate buddies can make money off the pain of people. That's what premiers are doing in conservative provinces, privatizing and cutting healthcare. So we are saying very clearly, Pierre Poilievre wants to cut healthcare. We want to fix it and shorten wait times. He wants to cut pharmacare. We want to lower the cost of medication. He wants to cut dental care. We want to make sure people can get their teeth looked after. So we will be voting no to the Conservative motion. We'll be voting no to Conservative cuts. The Liberals are too weak to stand up to Conservatives, but we can stand up to them and we can beat them. We've shown that in Elmwood-Transcona. I'll do that again in French and then I look forward to your questions. D'abord, je veux commencer en parlant de ce qui se passe en Liban. C'est tellement difficile de voir les pertes de vie. Ce qui s'est passé, c'est un des pires pertes de vie que le Liban a vécu depuis 2006. Et je suis tellement inquiété par le potentiel d'une augmentation de le conflit et l'impact que ça peut avoir sur un grand nombre de vies dans la région. Ça, c'est pourquoi je veux que le Canada fasse son part pour arrêter cette augmentation de ce conflit et de sauver les vies. Ce qu'on voit maintenant, c'est clairement des violations de le droit international de Netanyahu et de Hezbollah. Et on doit faire tout ce qu'on peut pour arrêter l'augmentation de ce climat, ce conflit. Puis aujourd'hui, on parle de notre vision pour le pays. Les conservateurs, leur vision, c'est clair, c'est une vision où ils veulent couper les soins de santé, couper la science médicament, couper les soins dentaires. Nous, ce qu'on veut faire, c'est de renforcer notre système de santé, améliorer l'accès aux soins dentaires. Et ça, c'est la vision qu'on propose. Donc, à cause des visions des coupures conservatrices de Pierre Poilievre, on va voter non à la motion conservatrice et on va voter non pour les coupures conservatrices. Aussi, je veux noter, je vais le noter en anglais aussi, j'ai demandé une question directement à Pierre Poilievre. Est-ce qu'il va couper les soins dentaires? Et il n'a pas eu le courage de dire oui ou non. And I want to add one last point. I asked directly a question to Pierre Poilievre after his speech. Does he have the courage to say whether or not he would cut the dental care program for seniors and kids that are receiving it? He did not have the courage to answer that question directly, but I can tell you he would cut it like the rest of healthcare. He would cut and it would hurt people.
Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé la semaine passée exactement? Est-ce que vous pouvez nous raconter? Il y a des médias qui ont rapporté comme quoi vous vouliez presque vous battre contre M. Poilievre. Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé exactement?
On a parlé déjà de ce qui s'est passé. C'est clair que Pierre Poilievre veut poser des questions à moi au lieu au Premier ministre. Il va avoir la chance quand je serai le prochain Premier ministre du Canada.
M. Singh, il y a des gens du Bloc, justement, au sujet de cette altercation que vous avez vue avec M. Poilievre jeudi durant la période des questions, qui ont dit que vous vouliez vous battre avec M. Poilievre. Est-ce que c'est exact que vous vouliez vous battre avec lui?
Je veux battre les coupures conservatrices de Pierre Poilievre.
Battre physiquement.
Je veux battre quelqu'un qui veut démanteler notre système de santé, quelqu'un qui veut détruire le système de santé et enlever les appuis pour nos aînés avec les soins dentaires qu'on a forcé le gouvernement de mise en place. Elle veut couper ça. Donc, je suis prêt à me battre contre quelqu'un qui veut faire mal aux gens.
I want to make sure I understand the point you're making here in the House, because it sounds like you're saying the Liberals are bad, but the Conservatives are worse, and that's why you're not voting for this motion. Is that an accurate reflection of your decision here?
I've actually said something exactly like that in a speech before. Absolutely. We think things are bad with Justin Trudeau, and they are. I think things are bad with the Liberal government, and they are. They would be even worse with Pierre Poilievre. And we want to make sure Canadians know that. and we want to lay out the different visions we have for Canada, and we've laid them out. Today, I talked about how the Conservatives want to cut and gut healthcare. That Conservative premiers are already doing that. They're privatizing healthcare, meaning that whether to get to see a doctor or to get healthcare, you've got to pay out of pocket, or you go to the back of the line. And the Liberals have done nothing to stop that. They haven't stopped these Conservative premiers. So we're sending a clear message. We reject the Conservative cuts of Pierre Poilievre. We want to strengthen our healthcare. He wants to tear it down. We want to strengthen and expand access to dental care. He wants to get rid of it. And so that's why we're voting against Pierre Poilievre and Conservative cuts. We're not going to let him call the shots. We're going to fight back and defend Canadians.
This is a referendum on the Liberals. It's not about the Conservatives. And so the implication here is that if you brought down the government, Pierre Poilievre would be Prime Minister. You're saying you want to be Prime Minister. Do you think that in the next election, Pierre Poilievre is going to win? Is that what Canadians want?
What I want Canadians to know that there's a real choice in the next election, and it's important to lay out that choice. We're not going to let Pierre Poilievre call the shots. We know what he wants to do. He wants to cut and gut the programs that people need. He wants to cut healthcare. He wants to cut your ability to go see a doctor. He wants you to pay out of pocket because his chief advisor, Jenny Byrne, works for one of the for-profit corporations that want to turn our healthcare system into a cash cow. They see people's pain as an opportunity to make profit. We see people's pain and want to find a way to make sure they get access to the best care possible. And that's our different visions for Canada. And that's a choice in the next election. The vision of Conservatives to cut the things that you need, or New Democrats who want to give you hope and relief.
But you could have that election now if you wanted, and you're continuing to support the Liberals. So how do you bring that choice to Canadians in the next election, which you could have if you just didn't vote with the Liberals right now?
We'll have an election, and when that election comes, we'll put that choice to Canadians, and we're going to continue to lay out the different choices. Right now, we're in the midst of a discussion around bringing in pharmacare. Conservatives want to cut pharmacare. They want to help out big pharmaceutical companies. We want to make sure people can afford their medication. So these are important choices that are in front of Canadians. But we're not going to play Conservative games. We're not going to let Pierre Poilievre call the shots. We're absolutely not going to support Conservative cuts. This is a Conservative motion. We reject their cuts, and we reject their motion.
When the NDP has its first supply day, will you consider moving a motion of non-confidence?
Our main focus has been in looking at what we do in this parliament. You can see from the beginning of both minority governments, we've been focused on what we can do to give people relief. That's been our vision. There will be an election, and when there's an election, there'll be a choice. New Democrats want to give Canadians hope and relief. The Conservatives want to cut the things that you need. They want to privatize our healthcare. They want you to have to pay out of pocket to see a doctor. They want you to have thousands of dollars of bills after you go through a surgery. That's what Conservatives are doing in Ontario. That's what Daniel Smith is doing. That's what Pierre Poilievre would do.
Qu'est-ce qui est arrivé la semaine dernière sur le plancher de la Chambre des communes avec M. Poilievre?
Et est-ce exact que vous vouliez en venir au coup avec M. Poilievre?
Ce qui s'est arrivé, c'est que Pierre Poilievre a voulu poser des questions à moi et il peut le faire quand je serai le prochain Premier ministre. Merci.
Mais non, mais
Merci.
est-ce que vous vouliez vous battre? Les gens disent que vous étiez prêt à vous battre avec